An 8-year-old girl fighting for her life had one last wish: to meet Donald Trump. Within days, the entire nation watched as Trump dropped everything to make her dream come true. And what he did for her family next left millions speechless. Lily Jacobs had spent more time in hospital rooms than playgrounds. While most 8-year-old girls were out riding bikes, climbing jungle gyms, or playing with friends at recess, Lily's world had become 4 drips, blood tests, and long nights in a hospital bed. Her room was filled with stuffed animals, get well cards, and pictures drawn by her younger brother Ethan. The walls were decorated with rainbows and stars, but nothing could hide the reality her family faced every day. Lily was battling a rare and aggressive form of childhood cancer. It had started with what her parents, Mark and Sarah Jacobs, thought was just a lingering cold. Then came the bruises that didn't heal, the constant fatigue, and finally the tests. The results shattered their world. From that day on, their lives became a blur of hospital stays, chemotherapy treatments, and endless consultations with specialists. Despite the pain and the endless poking and prodding, Lily remained a bright light to everyone around her. Nurses often said she had a smile that could light up the entire floor. Even on her toughest days, she cracked jokes with the doctors, made silly faces at her brother through FaceTime calls, and insisted on wearing her favorite pink headband every morning, even after losing all her hair. Mark and Sarah watched their bubbly, energetic daughter slowly grow weaker. The treatments took a toll on her small body. Her energy faded. Her laughter grew quieter. And finally, after months of fighting with everything she had, the heartbreaking conversation with her doctors happened. The one no parent is ever prepared for. They were told there wasn't much time left. The hospital staff did everything they could to make Lily's final weeks comfortable and meaningful. They brought therapy dogs to her room. They arranged special movie nights and even got a local musician to play her favorite songs by her bedside. But they wanted to do more. They wanted to give Lily something to smile about again, something unforgettable. One afternoon, as sunlight streamed through the window, one of her favorite nurses, Megan, sat on the edge of Lily's bed. Megan had known Lily since her first hospital stay. The two had bonded over silly dance moves and their shared love of cartoons. With a gentle smile, Megan asked, "Lily, if you could have one wish, anything at all, what would it be?" For a brief moment, the room was quiet. Mark and Sarah sat nearby, holding each other's hands tightly, curious and hopeful to hear what their daughter might say. Without missing a beat, Lily's tired eyes brightened just a little, and she smiled weakly. Her voice, though soft and shaky, carried a spark of excitement that had been missing for weeks. "I want to meet President Trump," she said. Her parents blinked in surprise. They hadn't expected that answer. Mark raised an eyebrow, glancing over at Sarah, who chuckled softly through her tears. "Trump? Really, sweetie?" he asked, walking over to sit next to her. Lily nodded enthusiastically, though her body was clearly exhausted. "I watch him on TV. He's funny and loud, and he's like a superhero when he talks. I just want to meet him, just once." Sarah ran her fingers gently through Lily's thin hair. "Then that's what we're going to try and make happen," she whispered. The hospital staff was immediately on board. Nurses, doctors, even the janitorial staff began brainstorming ways to get Lily's wish noticed. A local reporter heard about it during a routine visit to the hospital and decided to run a small story on the evening news. Within hours of the story airing, something incredible began to happen. People in their small town started posting about it on Facebook. Friends and neighbors began tagging Donald Trump's official social media accounts. The story spread like wildfire. Twitter picked it up next, and soon thousands of people across the country were tweeting and sharing Lily's story. A simple hashtag began to trend. Hashtag Lily wants to meet Trump. People from all political backgrounds joined in. Celebrities tweeted about her wish. Veterans groups reposted the story. Parents of other sick children shared their support, urging Trump to take notice. In just 2 days, what started as one little girl's quiet wish inside a hospital room turned into a national movement. The entire town rallied behind the Jacobs family. Local businesses hung signs in their windows that said, "Help Lily meet Trump." Her classmates at school made a video message holding up posters saying, "Make Lily's wish come true." The family's phones didn't stop ringing. News stations from nearby cities asked for interviews. Talk show hosts mentioned her story in their broadcasts. The momentum was unstoppable. Little did they know, the story was about to reach someone very important, someone with the power to make her dream come true. And it all started with a single, whispered wish from a little girl who just wanted one more special moment. Just 2 days after the story went viral, Mark's phone rang. The caller ID showed an unknown Washington, D.C. number. Mark almost didn't answer, assuming it was just another reporter or media outlet looking for an interview. But something told him to pick up. On the other end of the line was a calm but official-sounding voice. "Hello, Mr. Jacobs. This is Jenna from President Trump's outreach team. The president has heard about Lily, and he wants to meet her." For a moment, Mark couldn't speak. His heart skipped a beat. Sarah, sitting nearby, saw the shocked look on his face and mouthed, "What's wrong?" Mark put the call on speaker. The voice continued, "We've been following your daughter's story. The president was deeply moved. He wants to meet her as soon as possible. We're making arrangements for your family to come to Mar-a-Lago in Florida. Everything will be taken care of, travel, accommodations, medical needs, all of it." Sarah gasped, covering her mouth with both hands as tears welled up in her eyes. Ethan, Lily's little brother, jumped up from the floor where he had been playing with toy cars, sensing something exciting was happening. The staff at the hospital swung into action immediately. Lily's doctors were briefed on the trip and consulted with Trump's medical team to make sure she could travel safely. A dedicated medical flight crew was put on standby just in case. Nurses packed Lily's medications, feeding tubes, and emergency supplies. But amid all the clinical details, there was also room for hope and excitement. Lily's favorite stuffed animals were carefully placed in her suitcase, especially Mr. Buttons, her worn-out teddy bear that had been with her through every hospital stay. Her pink blanket, covered in cartoon stars and hearts, was folded neatly and packed next to her favorite storybooks. Word spread fast around their small town. Neighbors, friends, classmates, even people they didn't know personally started gathering at the local airport to see Lily off. Some brought balloons. Others brought handmade signs that said things like, "We love you, Lily," and "Have the best trip ever." The local fire department showed up with flashing lights, lining their trucks along the airport fence as a show of support. Then came the plane. When the bright red and gold-trimmed private jet touched down on the small runway, everyone gasped. It wasn't something you'd ever expect to see at their tiny regional airport. The side of the jet had the Trump family crest near the door, and the crew inside wore crisp uniforms with golden accents. As the plane stairs lowered, a few of Trump's staff members stepped out to greet the family. "We're here for Lily," one of them said with a warm smile. Lily was bundled in her favorite hoodie, looking frail but smiling ear to ear. As Mark carried her toward the jet, the entire crowd burst into cheers and applause. Some people waved flags, others wiped tears from their eyes. Sarah walked beside them, holding Ethan's hand tightly, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear, gratitude, and hope. Inside the jet, the cabin was luxurious but cozy. There were soft leather seats, warm lighting, and even a little basket filled with snacks and toys just for Lily. A flight attendant knelt next to her and asked, "Do you want to sit by the window, sweetheart?" Lily nodded quickly. For the first time in weeks, she looked truly excited. As the engines roared to life and the jet lifted off the ground, Lily gazed out the window with wide, sparkling eyes. The clouds looked like cotton candy. She giggled softly as she pointed things out to Ethan, showing him the tiny houses and cars far below. Mark sat with his arm wrapped around Sarah, both of them staring at their daughter, smiling, laughing, being a kid again, even just for this moment. During the flight, one of the staff members came over and knelt next to them. "Just so you know," she said gently, "the president is really looking forward to this. He's cleared his entire afternoon. He told us to make sure Lily feels like the most important person in the world when she arrives." Sarah bit her lip to hold back tears. Ethan climbed into his dad's lap and asked, "Will I get to meet him too?" Mark smiled and said, "I think we all will, buddy." As the plane made its descent toward Florida, the sun began setting, casting beautiful orange and pink hues across the sky. Lily leaned her head against the window, still smiling, as the warm colors reflected on her pale cheeks. What had started as a simple wish or whisper in a hospital room was now leading them toward a day none of them would ever forget. And just beyond the runway, waiting at Mar-a-Lago, stood the man Lily had dreamed of meeting, ready to greet her with open arms. When the Jacobs family arrived at Mar-a-Lago, the sun was shining bright over the Florida coastline. The air smelled like salt and flowers, and the palm trees swayed gently in the breeze. For a family that had spent most of the past year surrounded by hospital walls and sterile corridors, this felt like stepping into another world. As their car pulled up to the grand entrance, several members of Trump's staff stood waiting to greet them. Smiling faces, handshakes, and warm welcomes surrounded them. Ethan's eyes went wide at the sight of the grand columns and golden accents of the estate. "Is this a castle?" he asked, tugging on his mom's hand. Sarah laughed, still overwhelmed by everything happening so quickly. A staff member leaned down and said, "It's not a castle, but it's close." Lily, nestled in her wheelchair with her favorite pink blanket draped across her lap, looked around in awe. Her tired eyes seemed to regain a spark of life as she took in the bright colors, the large fountains, and the red carpet rolled out just for her arrival. But nothing could prepare them for what happened next. As they were led through the main hall and into one of the grand event rooms, they suddenly stopped in their tracks. There, standing in the center of the room, was Donald Trump himself. He wasn't behind a podium. He wasn't surrounded by media or flashing cameras. He stood there, smiling warmly, arms open wide, wearing one of his classic suits with a bright red tie. Without hesitation, Trump walked straight over to Lily. He knelt down to her level, resting one hand gently on her wheelchair armrest. Looking her straight in the eyes with a big smile, he said, "I've been waiting to meet a very special girl." Lily's face lit up with pure joy. Her giggle filled the room, and for that brief moment, she wasn't a cancer patient. She was just a happy little girl meeting someone she had admired from TV. Trump reached into a small bag nearby and pulled out a bright red "Make America Great Again" hat, already signed with his signature in bold black marker. "This is for you," he said as he placed it gently on her head. The hat was a little big, but that didn't matter. Lily loved it instantly. But what stood out the most was how unhurried the moment felt. This wasn't a quick photo op or a rushed handshake. Trump spent over an hour with Lily and her family. He sat with them, asked them questions, and listened closely to every word Lily said. They talked about her favorite cartoons. Lily proudly told him how she loved SpongeBob and that she could still sing the theme song from memory. Trump laughed and joked, "You know, I think SpongeBob might have more fans than me." That got another giggle from Lily. They talked about her dog, Max, a scruffy little terrier waiting back home. Lily told Trump how Max always cuddled with her when she wasn't feeling well. Trump leaned over and said, "Sounds like Max is a smart dog. Dogs always know when their people need love." Then came the part that melted everyone's heart. Lily shyly mentioned that one of her biggest dreams, besides meeting him, was to visit Disney World. She said she had seen the commercials on TV, with the princesses and fireworks, but she had never been able to go because of her treatments. Trump smiled knowingly. He leaned in close and whispered something in her ear. No cameras were allowed to capture that private moment. Later, when Sarah asked Lily what he had said, Lily grinned and whispered back, "He told me I'm the bravest person he's ever met." The room stayed warm and lighthearted the whole time. Even Ethan got in on the fun. Trump picked him up briefly, gave him a high five, and joked about how tough little brothers could be. Mark and Sarah were overwhelmed, not just by the fact that the president was there with them, but by how genuine, present, and kind he was with their children. And just when they thought the surprises were over, Trump stood up, turned to his staff, and said something that left everyone speechless. "I want this family to have something special," he said. "They've been through enough. Arrange a private trip for them to Disney World, first class, all expenses covered. Make it happen right away." Sarah burst into tears. Mark wiped his face, speechless, holding his wife's hand tighter than ever. Lily's face lit up brighter than anyone had seen in weeks. Her eyes widened, Her mouth dropped open in shock, and then she let out a joyful laugh that echoed through the grand room. For that moment, all the fear, the sadness, the hospital memories, all of it faded away. Lily was just a little girl with a big dream, and now, that dream was coming true in ways her family never imagined possible. And in that room, surrounded by gold ceilings and crystal chandeliers, it wasn't about politics. It was about love, kindness, and the power of showing up for someone when it matters most. What many people didn't know was what happened after the cameras were turned off and the reporters had packed up their gear. While the public saw the joyful, smiling moments of Lily meeting Trump, there was another side to the story, something private, personal, and far more powerful. That same evening, after the excitement of the day had settled, Trump's team invited Mark and Sarah Jacobs to a quiet, private room inside Mar-a-Lago. Lily was already resting in her room, tired but happy, her new red MAGA hat sitting on her nightstand next to Mr. Button's, her favorite teddy bear. Ethan had fallen asleep on the couch nearby, still clutching the souvenir Trump had given him earlier, a miniature Air Force One toy plane. Mark and Sarah walked into the private room, unsure of what to expect. Trump was already there, seated comfortably but with a serious expression on his face. This wasn't the lively, public figure they had seen on TV. This was a man who looked deeply concerned and fully present. As they sat down, Trump leaned forward and said, "I wanted to talk to you both privately, away from all the cameras, because there are some things I feel need to be done for your family." Mark and Sarah exchanged glances. Their hearts raced. Sarah's eyes were already welling up with tears, sensing the weight of what was coming. Trump continued, his voice softer than they expected. "I've heard about the challenges you've been facing, the hospital stays, the treatments, the costs that pile up. And I know that when something like this happens, the emotional stress is only one part of the struggle. The financial burden, that's another." He paused for a moment, then said something that left them speechless. "I want you to know, I've made arrangements to cover all of Lily's medical bills, past and future, everything." For a second, neither Mark nor Sarah could speak. Sarah's hands flew to her mouth as tears rolled down her cheeks. Mark shook his head slowly in disbelief, his eyes filling up, overwhelmed by the sudden relief washing over him. The weight they had been carrying for months, fear of losing their home, fear of not being able to pay for treatments, suddenly lifted. But Trump wasn't finished. "There's more," he said, leaning back slightly but keeping his gaze steady on them. "You have a little boy at home, Ethan, right?" They both nodded quickly. "I want to make sure his future is secure too. So I've set up a college scholarship fund for him. When the time comes, he won't have to worry about paying for school. That's my gift to your family." Now Mark couldn't hold back. He buried his face in his hands and sobbed. Sarah reached over and grabbed Trump's hand, squeezing it tightly. Through tears, she whispered, "Thank you, thank you. We don't even know what to say." Trump simply smiled, giving her hand a reassuring squeeze back. "You don't need to say anything," he replied softly. "This isn't about politics. This is about your family. It's about doing what's right." After a few more minutes, Trump stood, hugged both of them, and said one final thing before leaving the room. "Tomorrow is for making memories," he said with a wink. "So get some rest, because you've got a magical day ahead." And with that, he quietly exited, leaving Mark and Sarah holding each other, crying tears of both sadness and gratitude. The next morning, a stretch limousine was waiting outside their hotel room. Inside, it was stocked with snacks, stuffed toys for Ethan, and even a few Disney-themed goodies for Lily. A medical team accompanied them, just in case, making sure Lily was comfortable for the short trip to Disney World. As they arrived at the gates of the Magic Kingdom, Lily's face lit up with pure joy. The bright colors, the music, the sight of Cinderella's castle, it all felt like stepping into a dream. For a brief, beautiful time, there were no hospital walls, no 4 lines, no cancer. There was just Lily laughing, smiling, and soaking in every magical moment. She met her favorite Disney princesses and twirled with them in her wheelchair. She rode every gentle ride she was allowed on, spinning in teacups with Ethan, floating through It's a Small World, and smiling wide as fireworks lit up the sky that evening. Lily got to dance, sing, and eat cotton candy with sticky hands like any child should. Sarah captured every moment on her phone. Mark stood nearby, watching his little girl live her dream, knowing deep down that these memories would stay with them forever. For that entire day, there was no fear, no sadness, no treatments, just family, love, and joy. And behind it all, making it happen quietly, was the man who had heard one little girl's wish and did something no one expected. Sadly, just 2 weeks after their magical trip to Disney World, Lily passed away peacefully in her sleep. It happened early in the morning, while the sun was just starting to rise. She was surrounded by her family, her mom Sarah holding one hand, her dad Mark holding the other, and her little brother Ethan curled up at the foot of the bed. In her arms, she clutched Mr. Buttons, her favorite stuffed bear, who had never left her side through all the hospital visits, flights, and sleepless nights. The room was filled with quiet tears, soft whispers of love, and one final kiss on her forehead from each family member. The house, once filled with hope and laughter, now fell into a deep and quiet sadness. But as painful as that morning was for the Jacobs family, Lily's story wasn't over. In the days that followed, something incredible began to happen. The local news station that had first covered her story aired a tribute segment about her life and her special meeting with President Trump. Within hours, the clip spread across social media like wildfire. People from all over the country, many of whom had never even met Lily, started sharing her story with captions like, "This little girl taught us all something about bravery, and a moment of kindness we'll never forget." Major news networks picked up the story next. Videos of Trump kneeling beside Lily, giving her the signed red hat, and the emotional moment when he called her the bravest girl he'd ever met played on TV screens in millions of homes. The footage of Lily's beaming face at Disney World, laughing on the teacup ride, hugging princesses, watching fireworks, captured the hearts of viewers everywhere. What really caught people's attention, though, were the details that had stayed hidden until now. Trump's secret financial help, the scholarship for Ethan, and the fact that he had covered all of Lily's medical bills without making a public announcement about it. People were touched. They started donating. Thousands of donations flooded into children's hospitals across the country, many of them labeled simply, "In honor of Lily." Some people wrote notes along with their donations saying, "For the next Lily," or "so another family won't have to go through this alone." Sarah and Mark, still grieving but determined to honor their daughter's memory, decided to take that momentum and turn it into something lasting. Just a month after Lily's passing, they officially launched a nonprofit foundation called Lily's Light. Its mission was simple but powerful: to provide financial support, emotional care, and special experiences for other terminally ill children and their families. The foundation quickly gained national attention. Volunteers poured in. Fundraising events were held in multiple states. A special gala in Washington, D.C., raised enough money in one night to cover medical expenses for 20 families facing similar battles. Even people from different political backgrounds came together to support the cause. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, it didn't matter. For once, the country wasn't arguing about policies or elections. They were rallying around a little girl's legacy. And then there was Trump. During one of his speeches just a few months later, standing in front of a packed crowd, Trump paused mid-sentence. The teleprompter faded into the background. With genuine emotion in his voice, he began talking about Lily. "There's a little girl I met not too long ago," he began, his tone quieter than usual. "Her name was Lily, and she was a symbol of courage, hope, and strength beyond her years." The crowd fell silent. Some people wiped their eyes. Others stood with their hands over their hearts. Trump went on to talk about how meeting her had personally moved him and how he hoped her story would remind everyone that behind the politics, there are real people, real families, and moments that matter far more than anything you see in the headlines. Clips of that speech also went viral. Even some of Trump's critics shared it, saying, "This was a human moment, and it's what the country needed." As the months turned into years, the Lily's Light Foundation continued to grow. It funded hospital playrooms, family housing near treatment centers, and even fulfilled special wishes for dozens of other terminally ill children. And back home, In the Jacobs' living room, there remained a shelf filled with Lily's favorite things: her drawings, her red Trump hat, and a photo from that unforgettable day at Mar-a-Lago when she had laughed and smiled like she didn't have a single worry in the world. For the Jacobs family, what started as one little girl's final wish became a powerful, lasting legacy, one that continues to bring light, hope, and love to others forever. If this story touched your heart, please give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, and turn on the bell icon so you never miss more inspiring real-life moments like this. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story.